director of Darkman, comes Army of Darkness.
Hey everyone, welcome to Let's Talk. I'm John, and today we're going to be talking about the 1992 film Army of Darkness, and we're also going to be talking about its Scream Factory 4K Blu-ray that was just released. But before we dive into all that, if you are a fan of 4K Blu-ray reviews, movie reviews, tech reviews, and game reviews, we do them all here on the channel, and nothing would help us out more than by you liking this video and subscribing to the channel. So Army of Darkness is the third in the Evil Dead franchise. It's the direct sequel to the Evil Dead 2. If you saw Evil Dead 2, you know that it ends with Ash getting sucked back in time to 1300 AD or round about that, and he's stuck in medieval times and he's trying to find his way back. And that's where this film first starts. It's basically Ash narrating what happened, what led him there, and now he has to fight the army of the dead in the past to find his way back to the present. And this film is again directed by Sam Raimi and stars Bruce Campbell. And this is, I think, where the franchise finally went full comedy. Because the first Evil Dead is, I think, a straightforward horror, and I think the Evil Dead 2 is a real fine line between horror and comedy. They really float that line throughout the entire film. And then this one is just a full-fledged comedy with horror aspects built into it. And for a lot of people, Army of Darkness is their favorite film of the entire franchise. For me, I think it's probably my second favorite film. I really enjoy the entire franchise all the way through. I even enjoy the remake. I haven't watched Ash vs. the Evil Dead yet. But as far as the four films go, I get enjoyment out of every single one of them, all for different reasons. I actually still think I prefer the original one. I just love what Sam Raimi did and what Bruce Campbell did on that film with the low budget that they had on it. I admire it so much. And yeah, I think the effects really still, like, you know, I know they're supposed to be cheap and they're going for that B-movie feel throughout the entire thing in all three of these films. And it just works for me. And I think it works best in the original. Now, Evil Dead 2 is probably most people's favorite in the entire franchise, that or Army of Darkness, because they really love what Bruce Campbell is doing where he turns it up to 10.
This is my boomstick!
And he just becomes this iconic star. Ash Williams, that's when he became the legend of horror, is basically in Evil Dead 2, and then he just takes it to another level here in Army of Darkness, because he's banging out the one-liners through this. This is where we get
Hail to the King, baby.
You know, and then he's just beating himself up, and there's a great documentary called Medieval Times that's actually in this Army of Darkness set, and it just shows like what he put himself through, and it just shows that Sam Raimi and him just have this such close best friend relationship where they want to make the best movie possible for the viewer, and they just, all of them had the time of their life on the set. And the film itself, it really reflects that. This is a movie that's just a lot of fun. It's only 81 minutes for the theatrical cut, and it really moves at a quick pace. It's fun, just like the original two movies. These are great for spooky season. You're going to want to watch you can watch the entire trilogy in only like a few hours and still have time to watch other movies throughout the day. They're just a lot of fun. They're a good palate cleanser if you just watch like something like Hereditary or The Exorcist, where you really you're kind of just feeling down and depressed. You throw on Army of Darkness and you just watch Bruce Campbell just have the time of his life and just do everything he possibly can to give you a great time and really enjoy yourself. And I really think you're going to do that if you haven't seen Army of Darkness, because I think it's a fantastic film. It's just a lot of fun, and you could just see the love and care that was put into this film. And it might not be for everyone, because I think a lot of people go into this and they're like surprised at how the tone is, how the sets look. But for me, it really works. It checks a lot of boxes on my personal list, so for me this is definitely a great film and I can recommend it if you haven't seen it. But we're going to dive into this 4K a little bit earlier than I like to usually do on these reviews, because I have a lot to say about this one. So what I got here is the Scream Factory 4K Blu-ray that just came out. I got the Steelbook from Best Buy, but you can also order a slipcover edition, and you can also order it directly from Scream Factory, where you'll get a poster with it. So there are many different options before you get this set. I settled on the Steelbook because I think it's actually a very nice Steelbook. I really love the design of it. The color really pops, everything. It's really got a nice little flair to it. They do this around the entire box, really just showing the battle between the Army of the Dead. It actually probably looks better on here than it does in the film, because in the film, if you know what kind of special effects they were working with, you know, and they did that intentional. This had an $11 million budget, so if you think like, oh, it looks cheap on purpose. That was the intention. They wanted to go for that B-movie feel, and they nailed that. But again, you know, wrapping it around on this box is amazing. And then you come inside, and if this is your first time seeing the channel, I am a sucker for when they do individual disc design instead of just throwing in 4 black discs or 4 light blue, you know, that Blu-ray color disc. When they do this, but look what they did. This is a 4-disc set. Every disc has a different design on it. Every single one. All 4 discs have their own individual design on it. That is something that's completely there for the collector. This is a very nice steelbook. It's not my favorite steelbook ever, but that's a really high place to get to. But this is definitely a really solid steelbook. I'm very happy with the actual design of this steelbook design. I'm sure all 4 discs are just like that in the other slipcover edition that you can grab. And I really do love what they did with this steelbook. That's right out of the gate. That is something that's very solid about this. If you get this steelbook, you will not be disappointed, and that individual disc design is just awesome. So now I want to dive into the discs themselves. Like I said, this is a 4-disc set, and this also includes 4 different cuts of the film. It includes the original theatrical cut, it includes the director's cut, the international cut, and also the television cut. So all 4 cuts are included on that. The first disc has the 4K. The second disc has that same 4K but compressed down to 1080p. The third disc is the director's cut, which is just a 1080p not restored disc. And the fourth disc includes the international cut. Again, another 1080p disc that is not restored. It's just the cut you might have already had. It's been available to you. And it also has the television cut, which you have to find in its bonus features, which is in standard definition. So I did run that, and it looks like standard definition running on a high definition TV. So if you know what that looks like, it's extremely blurry, but it is there if you are a fan of it. Now, I saw a lot of complaints coming into this because the only cut of this film that gets a 4K restoration is the original theatrical cut. That is it. That's the only new thing in this entire set, is this brand new 4K that was overseen by Sam Raimi, the cinematographer and the editor of the film. They all approved this. They said this is the cut we want, and that's the 81-minute cut. That's the theatrical cut. That's the same on the 4K and on the Blu-ray. Those are both the same cut. They have you get the 4K with Dolby Vision on it and HDR, and then you have it compressed down to a 1080p on the second disc. And that's the only version of this film that has received a brand new 4K restoration. And that's going to be disappointing for some people. Not me personally, because I always do watch the theatrical cut. I have watched the director's cut, but I've always gone back and watched the theatrical cut. So I was fine with them only restoring the theatrical cut. But, you know, when there is a director's cut, that's the cut that Sam Raimi is ideally supposed to like the most. You would think that would also get the same 4K restoration treatment, and it doesn't. And from what I was able to gather, a lot of fans of this film actually prefer the international cut, and that's another cut of this film that also didn't receive a 4K restoration. I think most people were anticipating when they were releasing this, because this isn't Scream Factory's first shot at this. They've done this before, and they've released mostly everything in here except for this 4K cut. They have released all these cuts before, most of these extras coming directly from them, and most of them are not new, so the only thing you're going to be getting is a brand new 4K theatrical cut. And I know that's going to disappoint some people, because I know that a lot of people would prefer to watch the director or the international cut, and you're going to be forced to watch that in 1080p, and you're going to have to watch it in an older version of this, where it's not going to look like the current 4K and the current Blu-ray, which actually they did an amazing job restoring this film. It never looked better. I ran through every single one of these cuts, and the 4K is by far the definitive way to watch this film. It looks great. Like I said, this is not the best looking film. It's intentionally ugly, so it's never really like looked good to my eyes. Nothing really ever popped, but this is the closest you're gonna get to it. You know, this takes place in medieval times, so there's a lot of sand. They filmed this in the California desert, so that doesn't really become the most appealing thing. And the fact that they are using the audio itself is supposed to sound bad, and the visuals aren't supposed to be the greatest. They're using a lot of stop motion graphics throughout the entire thing. Again, that's paying homage to B movies of the past, and it really ties in well with the Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, what they were going for. So don't go into this thinking it's going to be the greatest thing ever, but it is great for what Army of Darkness was going for. This is definitely visually what Sam Raimi wanted his film to look like, and they really nailed it on the 4K disc. The Dolby Vision does good work. I actually watched it on Dolby Vision and HDR. I ran them both to see what they look. The Dolby Vision cleans it up just a little bit more and makes the blacks a little bit blacker, and the colors pop just slightly more than the regular HDR. So if you don't have Dolby Vision, I don't think it's the biggest noticeable difference, but you will notice a difference going from Dolby Vision to HDR. So depending on what your setup is, that is there. Now, these have no new audio tracks on any of the cuts. They all have whatever their original tracks were that have been previously released. So on the theatrical cut, you're going to have a DTS HD 5.1 with the option of a DTS 2.0. And that's a pretty good track. I actually thought it was alright. Again, it would have been nice if they would have rescanned it and done a whole new Dolby Atmos track for it, because this is actually a pretty high amount of action in this, and I think that it would have been nice to get a Dolby Atmos track and have it and just to see what they could have done with it. But the DTS 5.1 is not terrible. It's good, it's acceptable, it's just not new. And I think that's going to be the biggest problem for a lot of people with this entire set, is that all you're going to be getting is a brand new 4K restoration of the theatrical cut. So if you already have the previous editions of this Blu-ray, you might be a little bit skeptical getting this. Now, if you have the Screwhead edition from 2009, I would say definitely you should upgrade now if you're a fan of Army of Darkness and that's all you got floating around. There is no reason to not, because that is a very old Blu-ray and it's definitely going to look just not good compared to what this 4K looks like. But if you have the previous Scream Factory release, it's going to be a lot tougher for you, and it's really just going to come down to how you feel about the film. If you only really watch the theatrical cut like I have, you're going to want to see this 4K restoration of it. But if you're somebody who goes right only to the director's cut and that's the only edition of the film you watch, honestly, there's no reason to upgrade because you're getting the same exact disc that you already have. So why would you upgrade? Unless you really want to see what they can do with that 4K technology and what Dolby Vision can do. But that's really going to come down to you and how you feel about it. Because for me, it's fine. But I didn't actually own this on 4K before this or on Blu-ray. So for me, this is new to my collection. I'm very glad I got it. I'm really happy with all the extras on it. And my personal favorite thing that they did on this is they released on the second disc on the Blu-ray, it's called Medieval Times. It's a documentary about the making of Army of Darkness, but it's a good documentary. Like, this is something that could have been theatrically released. It's totally a film version documentary. This isn't a 20-minute featurette. It is at film length. It's perfect. It talks to everybody involved in the film. You get interviews with Ted Raimi, Bruce Campbell, who, if you've ever seen interviews with Bruce Campbell, he's just amazing. He has just charisma just pouring out of him. He's just amazing to ever listen to him talk. I love listening to the man speak. He just loves what he does. He loves his fans. He's just a genuine good guy. And Sam Raimi seems like the same way. And those two are just amazing friends. And it just seems like a family environment making this film. And if you're a fan of this and you haven't checked out Medieval Times, I watched that right after I watched the film yesterday. And it enhanced my viewing of the film because I just love seeing people have passion about making movies. That makes it just that much better, knowing that people had fun making the movie. Because when you hear about like a movie you might like and you hear, oh, it was such a sludge, it was terrible on set, I hated being there. With Hoosiers, you hear Gene Hackman was just terrible on set, he thought it was going to be a bad movie. But then Hoosiers is a great movie, but when you find out that, you know, he's just faking it the whole time, and I get it, they're actors, that's what they're supposed to do. But just seeing the fact that Bruce Campbell was just having the time of his life, and he said he just got married, and it really was hard to do, but he was just having fun with his buddies. And, you know, for me, that's something that means a lot, and I'm really glad that they included that on here. For me, anytime you include a documentary in the extras, I'm going to give the extras a higher grade just because I'm really glad that they're there. But there is extras on every single one of these discs except for the 4K, so you're going to want to, if you're a fan of Army of Darkness and you don't have that Scream Factory set, the extras are, there's enough for days to get you through the entire Halloween season, and you're going to really have a great time with them. So if you don't have Army of Darkness already in your collection, or you just have that Screwball edition, then I would say definitely pick this up. But if you have that Scream Factory edition that's been released previously, I would say you're going to have to do some soul searching and decide, is it worth the upgrade for you? What cut of the film do you actually watch? And that should help make your decision. I can tell you it's definitely an upgrade from the theatrical cut on previous Blu-rays, but it really comes down to what version of the film you watch and how much you're willing to spend to just upgrade a theatrical cut of this film. But overall, for me personally, I had a great time with it. I'm really glad that this is in my collection. I love the steelbook. I love the design of the actual physical discs. I think the 4K restoration did a great job upgrading the visuals. The audio is the same. All the extras have been previously released. So for me overall, I'm going to probably have to give this set a solid 7.5 out of 10. I only take points off because I understand that people don't watch the theatrical cut, and if you already have a previous Scream Factory release of this, it's not worth the upgrade in my opinion. Maybe on a sale, but if you don't have it, like me, this is the best way to ever watch the film. This is the definitive edition of it. So it's really going to come down to what you have, what you want to see, and if it is worth it for you. For me, it's worth it. I think it's worth the upgrade. I'm really happy that I finally completed my Evil Dead collection. Now I just got to get to Ash vs. the Evil Dead, and we're getting a sequel next year, so we'll see what they do there. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoy your day. Thanks for being a fan of Let's Talk. Please make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and tell all your friends.